All right, I call this meeting to order. Board Secretary will call a roll.
Chair Mejia,
Here.
Vice Chair Sutton, Secretary Treasurer Norvey,
Here.
and Director Almeida,
Here.
Director Angeles,
Present.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings,
Present.
Directors Sutton and Kemp have been excused. We have a quorum.
Great. Thank you, Jen. I would like now to welcome our newest director, James Almada, to the LBT board. Welcome, James. Do you want to say something?
Sure. Excited to be here and join some great public servants. Been following the last few meetings, so hopefully I'm pretty aware of the last few things that the team has been doing, and excited to hear more about the budget today. I know we have a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities in front of us. So excited to join the team.
Great. We're excited to have you. All right. Now Elizabeth Brown will present the May 2025 Employees of the Month.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Mejia, members of the board, Mr. McDonald, and all others assembled here today. I am Elizabeth Brown, Executive Director and Vice President of Organizational Development and Administration. In support of LBT's strategic priority of fostering employment engagement, it is my pleasure to acknowledge the Employees of the Month for May 2025. The Employees of the Month for May 2025 are Ronald Abril, Marvin Benache, and Freddie Vasquez. Operator Ronald Abril has been with LBT for 18 years, and this marks his second Employee of the Month nomination. As an extra board operator assigned to LBT2, he consistently ensures timely reliefs in the field, helping maintain on-time performance for our customers. Ronald is known for his reliability, professionalism, and strong work ethic. He remains a valuable member of the LBT team. Mechanic Marvin Bernache has been with LBT for nearly 2 years, and this is his first Employee of the Month nomination. Assigned to LBT1, he is responsible for proactively inspecting buses each week to ensure they are road ready. He also supports the graveyard shift by assisting with repairs and preventative maintenance inspections. Marvin's technical skills, attention to detail, and sound judgment were instrumental in LBT's successful CHP inspection results. Always dependable and eager to learn, Marvin continues to show strong potential for growth and advancement. Freddie Vasquez serves as the revenue supervisor and has been with LBT for 19 years. He was recognized as Employee of the Year in 2018, and this is his 5th Employee of the Month nomination. Over the past few months, Freddie has worked tirelessly to address challenges with the fare collection system on our buses. When problems arose, he took immediate action, working with TSC, maintenance, and external vendors to identify and resolve the root cause. His efforts led to major improvements in fare collection accuracy and consistency. Freddie's dedication and ability to bridge teams highlight his strong commitment to LBT's mission. It is my pleasure to now present these valuable members of the Long Beach Transit team via video.
My name is Marvin Bernache. I've been in LBT for almost 3 years, and I'm a mechanic. My favorite part about working in LBT is learning about the new electrical buses, the critical thinking when it comes to troubleshooting. Don't know what the next day might come. Surprises. I feel pretty good becoming Employee of the Month. It really shows that all my hard work is paying off.
Hello, my name is Freddie Vasquez, revenue supervisor here at Long Beach Transit. I've been here for 19 years. My favorite part of working here at LBT is it's like a family here. It's actually my second family, so that's the most enjoyable thing about working here at LBT. It's an honor being Employee of the Month. I know I've been Employee of the Month several times, but it's always an honor to be an Employee of the Month.
Thank you to all of the employees of the month for being dedicated to connecting communities, moving people, making everyday life better.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And thank you to Ronald, Freddie, and Marvin for being amazing employees. Moving on at this time, I'd like to invite members of the public who want to address the board on any matters that don't appear on the agenda and is within the board's jurisdiction. If you have not done so already, I ask you to submit a speaker card to the board secretary. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, Chair, we do. First comment from Donald.
Good afternoon. My name is Donald Trey Moody, and first I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak. I'm the founder of Affiliated Worldwide, a community-driven nonprofit focused on empowering vulnerable seniors, underserved families, and youth by connecting them to essential resources they need to thrive. I'm here today because vulnerable seniors are at the heart of our mission, and one of the greatest barriers they face is reliable, dignified access to food, healthcare, and community engagement. I'm currently developing an innovative project designed to bridge those gaps in a new way. And I see Long Beach Transit as a vital partner in helping us move the needle for those who are most often left behind. My goal is not only to share what we're building, but to explore how we can align missions, creating real, lasting impact together. Although today I have to leave early, I'm here to listen, learn, and hopefully open the door for a future collaboration that lifts the communities that we all care deeply about. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Donald, for coming. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, we do. Next public commenter, Chris Corsa.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Christopher. Last name is Corsa. I ride the bus for more than 35 years, and I've seen a lot. One concern that I have, and it's really annoying, the food vendors are parked right next to the bus stop. When they're cooking their barbecue, the smoke goes into the bus, and while I'm standing there, it really bothers me and creates a problem with my chest. So it would be nice if we can suggest that the vendors go to another area. Just a suggestion. I do have breathing issues. I go to the doctor for my appointments and see them. And they give me medication that I take, inhalers and such. So with my breathing, I'm okay now. But regardless, I just wanted to let you know that. And a second topic I wanted to share is my friend. He sees the same bus driver on LBT driver and is constantly telling LBCC students that they're not allowed to bring water on the bus, that she insists that they have to dump out their water. And I worry about my deaf friend because he has health issues and he needs to bring that water with him every day. It's very important to his health, but he's afraid that the bus driver, if she sees it, then he's gonna force him to dump out the water. And so it's very terrifying for him. And I told him, just be careful and keep an eye on her so that she doesn't, make you dump out your water, because your water is important to have for his health issue. So thank you for understanding me. You good? All done? I'm done.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming. And we'll make sure to look into those issues.
And then we do have an
Oh, do
online.
you know more where these issues are happening? What bus line? Yeah, the routes. We have staff that will get that information for you. Okay. Thank you so much. Is there any additional public comment?
Yes, we have 2 online public commenters. One moment. Tyler Keeling?
Hi, thank you. You totally pronounced my name right, and I appreciate that. A lot of people don't. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, esteemed board members of Long Beach Transit. My name is Tyler, and I'm a resident of Long Beach who uses our public transportation system, and I care about the workers who make this happen. It's come to my attention recently that CEO Kenneth McDonald does not care to support Long Beach Transit workers. What do I mean by that? Senate Bill 616 was approved by the governor on October 4th, 2023. This bill mandates that employees covered by collective bargaining agreements be extended sick time rights guaranteed by the Healthy Workplaces, Healthy Families Act of 2014. Despite this, the employees of Long Beach Transit are denied pay for their first day of sick time when they choose to use sick time, often leaving workers with a difficult choice. Do I stay home without pay? Do I risk my health and safety for a paycheck? This is an impossible decision when you weigh factors such as rent, groceries, personal health, and public safety, especially in today's world. And yet workers are forced to make this decision. How is this fair to these workers, and how is it fair to the general public of Long Beach? Long Beach Transit workers provide an essential and skilled service to many residents of Long Beach. Yet most of our vulnerable, especially to most of our most vulnerable and marginalized residents. Why should this be allowed to continue when it violates existing labor law, especially when it can have such a negative ramification for the general public? Long Beach Transit is nothing without its workers, and as such, I hope this is prioritized and addressed so that it can be rectified and workers can safely and securely do their jobs, knowing that if they are sick, they can take this time off. Our transit workers across every job title are too important to continue letting us fall by the wayside. I understand that you may be unable to address this as you are bound to the Brown Act per the board agenda, but I hope that the severity of this issue is well communicated from my end and that you can connect to what I'm speaking on. We are nothing without our workers, and they deserve dignity and grace, including being able to take this paid sick time as is needed. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you may empathize with this struggle, and I hope to see this addressed and remedied.
Great. Thank you so much for your public comment.
And then our last public commenter, Kevin Meno.
Hello, LBT Board of Directors and Chief Executive Officer and President Kenneth McDonald. I'm Kevin Meno, resident of Bellflower and a longtime rider of Long Beach Transit of more than 30 years, more than any other transit agency in Southern California. I wanted to give a special recognition and thanks to the employees of the month for for their hard work and dedication in keeping LBT as what I dubbed the world's greatest transit agency, and especially to the Chief Executive Officer, Kenneth McDonald, for helping keep fares affordable for me and for everybody. I mean, $1.25 one way, that is so affordable and cheap. I mean, it's affordable and people could be able to get around to places around the Long Beach Transit Service area. And I hope one day in the future that that hopefully when LBT can hire more bus drivers, that I would hope to see future expansion to more destinations not yet served by Long Beach Transit. One destination in particular is the Disneyland Resort, which is about to start its 70th celebration tomorrow. And Metro, Orange County Transit, Riverside Transit, and Anaheim Resort Transit all serve the Disneyland Resort every day, taking tourists and workers, or cast members as Disney calls them, to the Disneyland Resort. And I hope, and given that LBT is the last major agency not yet serving Disneyland, I'm hoping that a study can be considered, not now, but maybe in the future once more drivers are hired, to help to launch a express route from Long Beach Airport to Disneyland, as Long Beach Airport is also the second closest airport to the happiest place on earth. So I'm hoping that service expansion to more places will be considered in the future. Just maybe not right now with all the current priorities, especially with the new buses about to come online soon. I cannot wait to ride those new 40-foot electric buses once they get here, hopefully by this fall. So thank you very much for your allowing me to speak, and for your hard work and dedication in ensuring that Long Beach Transit remains the world's greatest transit agency. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there any more public comment? All right, seeing none, thank you everybody for submitting your public comment. Moving on, now we move on to the consent calendar. All matters included in the consent calendar are considered routine by LBT Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There are no separate discussions on these items unless a member of the Board of Directors or the public so request, in which the matter shall be removed from the consent calendar and considered as a separate item. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So,
There is a second.
so moved.
All right, call for a roll call.
Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sutton, Secretary Treasurer Yarbe,
Aye.
Director Almeida,
Yes.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings,
Aye.
Director Sutton and Kemp have been excused.
Great, thank you, Jen. And now Ashley Lang will present agenda item number 6.
Good afternoon, Chair Mejia, Mr. McDonald, members of the board, and all who are assembled here today. My name is Ashley Liang, and I am the treasurer for Long Beach Transit. I am here before you today to request the board of directors to approve the updated statement of investment policy, or commonly referred to as the policy, for the financial assets of Long Beach Transit. As required by the California Government Code, this policy is presented to the board every year for review and approval. I am pleased to share that the policy before you today has been updated to reflect Long Beach Transit's successful certification by the California Municipal Treasurers Association, or referred to as the CMTA. CMTA serves as a platform for public treasurers from cities, counties, and special districts to collaborate, share best practices, and uphold ethical standards in public finance. While no major changes are being proposed, the policy has been refined in the following ways to as part of the successful CMTA certification process. It has improved clarity through formatting, including reorganization of content for better readability, aligned terminology with industry standards, and best practices such as formal references to to regulatory bodies such as the Securities and Exchange Commission, or commonly refers to as the SEC, and strengthen consistency in language and structure throughout the document. This certification affirms that LBT's policy meets the professional standards established by CMTA, including best practices for safeguarding public funds and promoting transparency and accountability in public investment management. As background, LBT maintains 3 investment policies. The first is the corporate investment account, which is presented in this agenda item. The other 2 are the contracted employees pension investment policy statement and the salaried employees pension investment policy statement. The corporate investment policy provides guidance for staff to effectively supervise, monitor, and evaluate the agency's financial assets. It outlines the policies and procedures that govern cash management and investment activities in accordance with the California Government Code and other applicable laws and regulations. The policy is structured around several key objectives. 1, to maintain sufficient liquidity to meet operating requirements. 2, to achieve an average rate of return that is comparable to a 3-month US Treasury bill over economic cycles. 3, to uphold the highest standards of ethical conduct. 4, to avoid conflicts of interest. And 5, to apply the prudent investment standard, which requires care, skill, and diligence with consideration for economic conditions and agency's anticipated needs. These objectives collectively safeguard principle by managing credit and mitigating market risks. Staff will continue to conduct an annual review of the policy to ensure compliance with applicable laws and regulations, the California Government Code, and guidelines from the State of California's Local Agency Investment Funds, or LAIF, and governmental accounting standards. This policy is consistent with the California Government Code Section 53600, which governs permissible investment instruments for public agencies. In addition, the quarterly investment report summarizes the investment portfolio's composition and historical performance over the prior 12 months. Therefore, I am before you today to request the board to approve the updated Statement of Investment Policy Financial Assets of Long Beach Transit. This concludes my agenda. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any public comments? Agenda item? No. All right. Discussion from the board.
Yeah,
Oh, perfect.
thank you, Chair. Ashley, thank you for the report. I appreciate it being thorough and its alignment with the cited government code section. Since I signed this document, I just have a few questions / clarifications and potential concerns. Referring to the memo, first paragraph, the background, where it says the policy must be reviewed and approved by the governing body to provide transparency and ensure ongoing compliance. Just to clarify, who is the governing body?
It would be this board of directors.
Is the policy also reviewed by an independent auditor or some other advisory board?
A copy of this policy is provided as part of our annual financial audit, and our external auditor does have a possession and does review
Okay.
through it.
Okay, thank you. Second question is on page 2 of the memo. You refer to LIF, and then also Fidelity Investments. So in respect to Fidelity Investments, do we ask for their holdings, a list of their holdings or assets?
We do. We receive monthly statements as well as quarterly statements, and in
Okay.
the quarterly investment report that's distributed to the board, we do list all the investment holdings. that we
Okay.
have.
Yeah, I received the quarterly investments, but beyond the narrative, the graphs and the numbers are confusing to me. So I just wanted to make sure. And so if we do, are those investments also in compliance?
Absolutely.
Now referring to the policy itself, paragraph number 6, ethics and conflicts of interest. Do we perform audits or third party reviews on employee investment disclosures? Or the investment officials?
So let me just jump in. I think, so we all file Form 700, as you all do too. And so I think that probably addresses what you're talking about, but
Well,
if
without,
there's something else.
without actually listing the Form 700 here, then that's probably what. Oh, okay. My next question is paragraph 8, authorized and suitable investments. Is LBT allowed to invest in derivatives or structured notes? I read the definition in the glossary. So
LAIF, I believe, is so the exhibit 1 that's attached with the policy does list the permissible investment. So we strictly follow that to make sure
Okay.
what is allowed by the state is what we
Okay.
also follow.
okay. All right. Paragraph 13, diversification. In respect to the current holdings, are they compliant as well?
Yes, we make sure. So part of our investment managers also get a copy of our investment policy to make sure any investment that they do allocate is in line with this policy.
And my last question pertains to paragraph 16. So in reading these these two paragraphs, it seems like it states that LBT has the discretion to have early sale of securities for the 3 listed exceptions, correct? So declining credit, liquidity needs, and yields, right? I'm curious to know because I don't see a requirement for board notification if these are exercised. Are those contained in the quarterly reports that we receive?
May I ask a clarifying question to your question?
Yes.
That is your question whether the board is notified if any of those 3 provisions are
That is
triggered?
correct.
Okay. At least a second.
So yes, at times that's happened. And so what has happened is that a bond rating has gone down. And so that has triggered the sale of it, and the board has been advised of that. I don't think that's happened in at least a number of years. But when that does occur, in the quarterly investment report, the board would be notified of the
Okay.
sale.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ashley. And thank you for being patient.
All right. Any other board discussion? All right. Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sutton, Secretary Treasurer Narabe,
Aye.
Director Almeida.
Aye.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings,
Aye.
Director Sutton, and Rawlings have been excused.
Thank you so much. All right, moving on to agenda item 7 that will be presented by Terry Kuhn.
Good afternoon, Chair Mejia, members of the board, Mr. McDonald, and all who are assembled here today. My name is Terry Kuhn, Manager of Finance in the Finance and Budget Department. I'm before you today to request the board to authorize the President and CEO to extend Long Beach Transit's participation in Year 5 of the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority's Regional Go Pass program until June 30th, 2026. So what is the Go Pass program? I'm glad you asked. In August of 2020, the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or LA Metro, announced the pursuit of a student-focused fareless systems initiative, now officially referred to as GoPass. The discussion involved Metro as well as other municipal and local transit systems, including Long Beach Transit, LBT, to discuss the feasibility and impact of a countywide implementation. LA Metro's Board of Directors voted to approve an 18-month pilot program at its September 2021 Board of Directors meeting. LBT began participation in the program in November of 2021, and the LBT Board of Directors voted to opt into the GoPass program. Under the initial phase of the pilot program, eligible students attending participating school districts have had subsidized transportation access to unlimited rides on transit agencies that signed on to the pilot program. Currently, 18 transit agencies are participating in the program, including Long Beach Transit, LA Metro Bus and Rail, Foothill Transit, Santa Monica Big Blue Bus, Gardita Transit, Torrance Transit, Norwalk Transit, and others. During their April 2024 meeting, the LA Metro Board of Directors voted to make the GoPass Fairless pilot program permanent effective July 1st, 2024. Under the GoPass program, students ride using a physical transit access pass or TAP card or a virtual TAP card with an eligibility code that is distributed only through schools and must be registered online each year. This process has reduced previous barriers to transit access, requiring lengthy applications and long waiting periods. Currently, school districts and transit agencies participating in the GoPass program share the cost of the program. Both K through 12 and community college districts are required to contribute $7 per student per year to participate in the program. The revenue collected from the districts is then distributed amongst the various transit agencies who participate in the program on a prorated basis using ridership as the metric. And the $2 tap card, the $2 fee for tap cards is deducted for each card that is distributed to the school districts. It should be noted that K through 12 districts are eligible for up to 60% reimbursement of their transportation costs thanks to Assembly Bill 181 for the Home to School Transportation Funding Program. So to illustrate the revenue sharing costs between transit agencies, this table before you represents an example of the annual cost breakdown for a K through 12 district or community college district. Using Long Beach Unified School District or LBUSD and Long Beach City College or LBCC as an example. Number and amounts included on this table are for illustrative purposes only. As previously mentioned, the cost per student per year is $7 per student. So let's say for academic year 2024-2025, the total LBUSD population was 65,000 students, which at a rate of $7 per student equates to $455,000 due to LA Metro by the district. After fees for TAP cards provided to the districts to distribute to students are deducted, LBT would then receive 90% or $346,500 of the remaining revenue based on its share of LBUSD's overall ridership for the year. The ridership share percentage that you see of 90% means that out of all the total boardings of LBUSD students, 90% of those rides were taking on LBT's buses. And thus, LBT is entitled to 90% of the revenue generated from LBUSD's cost sharing participation. This same methodology would be applied to calculate the cost to LBCC and other districts and LBT's revenue share. Having already mentioned LBUSD and LBCC, this slide provides a snapshot of the districts and schools within LBT's service area who currently participate in the GoPass program. Including the districts and schools listed on this slide, a total of 133 K-12 districts, public school districts, charter school networks, independent charter, and private schools are participating in the program, along with one adult vocational school district and 9 community college districts for a grand total of 143 districts total. Students from all 143 districts can use LBT service. Currently, students from over 60 of the 143 K-12 and community college districts across the region have used LBT service thus far in year 4. This equates to over 700 schools countywide using LBT's service. Additionally, within LBT service area, which is primarily comprised of LBUSD and LBCC, over 18,000 TAP cards are currently registered, which represents approximately 17.5% of the two districts' combined student population of just over 100,000 students. Now we'll discuss the Go Pass program's performance over the past 2 years. As previously mentioned, LBT joined the Go Pass program with the approval of this governing body at its November 2021 board meeting. This first chart shows all Go Pass student boardings for year 3 or fiscal year 24 and year 4, fiscal year 25 to date, with year 3 represented by the ocean blue color and year 4 represented by the goldenrod color. As a side note, this slide contains boardings for LBT only. Year 3 yielded over 2.7 million boardings, and year 4 has amassed over 1.9 million boardings to date. And we project year 4's total Go Pass ridership to slightly exceed year 3's ridership of just over 2.7 million boardings. Since the inception of the Go Pass program and LBT's participation therein, there have been approximately 7 million boardings on LBT buses. Now we will break out boardings by student type. Of the 1.9 million boardings and counting for year 4, K through 12 boardings make up 79% of total Go Pass ridership, while community college boardings make up 21% of total Go Pass ridership. This chart shows all Go Pass K through 12 student boardings for year 3 or fiscal year 24 and year 4, fiscal year 25 to date. As you can see from the chart, ridership has remained steady year over year with slight increases over the past 3 months. This next chart shows all Go Pass community college student boardings for year 3, fiscal year 2024, year 4, fiscal year 2025 to date. Again, as you can see, ridership has increased for this group year over year almost across the board. Now, this next chart tracks the revenue and ridership trends over the life of the program thus far. The red line you see on the chart represents Go Pass revenue earned, and the ocean blue line represents the base fare revenue LBT would have earned if LBT collected the full fare of $1.25 for each ride. All things being equal, you can see a noticeable gap between the blue and red lines, and this gap represents the loss of revenue LBT has incurred as a result of the current revenue structure of the program. Said differently, the significant increase in ridership for the Go Pass program has outpaced the revenue generated from the Go Pass program. This table shows the ridership and revenue earned for each year of the program thus far. To orient you to the table, the far left column represents the fiscal year and program year. The second column represents the total ridership for each year. The middle column represents the actual revenue earned from the program, LBT share that is, with fiscal year 2025 noted as an estimate. The fourth column represents the base fare revenue LBT would have collected if we charged the students the full base fare of $1.25 per ride. And the far right final column highlights the associated revenue loss for each year of the program given the same ridership patterns. The numbers for year 4, fiscal year 2025 again, are projected through June 30th, 2025. To summarize this table, over the first 4 years of the Go Pass program, LBT has experienced a revenue loss of about $7.6 million. These next two charts compare Go Pass to LBT's overall ridership, the pie chart on the left, and LBT's fixed route passenger fares, the pie chart on the right. To put this chart in perspective, the Go Pass program makes up 19% of the ridership while only accounting for 6% of LBT's passenger fare revenues. This chart provides a snapshot of a school week and demonstrates the demand put on the system during the peak morning hours between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., represented in the goldenrod bars to the left, and the peak afternoon hours of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. represented by the goldenrod bars on the right, where additional buses or trippers are added to meet the demand. The demand during those peak hours puts a heavy strain on the organization's resources for very limited times during the day. Since the implementation of GoPass, which addresses only students, LBT has added additional trippers or additional buses to accommodate for the additional ridership as a result of the program. Comparing the latest service change and the service level from before GoPass implementation, 30 additional daily trippers were added to regular school days, and 27 additional trippers on minimum school days. These additional trippers require additional bus operators to accommodate the additional service required. With approximately 180 student days in an academic year, this equates to approximately $500,000 in additional costs each fiscal. Having said all that, despite the challenges and uncertainty surrounding the future funding of the program, GoPass has made a positive societal impact in the lives of students across the region and in the city of Long Beach and LBT service area in particular. As a reminder, staff is presenting a request to extend LBT's participation into year 5 as we continue to understand the impact of the program on the organization's resources and work with LA Metro and other transit agencies to secure additional funding for the program. Therefore, I am before you to request the board to authorize the president and CEO to extend Long Beach Transit's participation in year 5 of the Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority's Regional Go Pass program until June 30th, 2026. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Terry. Do I hear a motion to approve the recommendation?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Are there any public comments? Seeing none. Discussion of the board. All right, we'll go with Director Angeles and then we'll go with Director Rowling.
Appreciate the presentation. I think it's a good program, but it is quite a gap with respect to the financing of it. When you're working with Metro to find other sources, you know, the governor's budget was just released, and is there advocacy in the state level, the federal level, or I mean, to fill that gap? Because I mean, some way, I mean, it's a good story to tell, right, in terms of services to students, but you know, to figure out where it is that we can get that money from elsewhere. What's the plan there?
First, there's no real advocacy for this. This has been directed by the MARTA board of directors. I mean, the Metro board of directors. What I'm looking at with Metro is, as we enter the year 5, there was the plan that we had the first 5 years. See where the plan is. What do we do now to get funding? Because this is not just us. Metro is having the same problem, and that's the intent this year. So I can come back at the end and tell the board where we are. But I don't believe we'll ever be able to pull this program. I think we went into something. I said that at the beginning of the program, that once you give free, you can't take it back. How we pay for it, we know the impact that it has, the students, the usage, everything is positive except the fact that we're not getting money for the consistent cost. And you notice the cost is in the peak hour. That's where we have our biggest problem. If we could spread that ridership off the peak hours, life would be great. We can't. It's in the time when students go to school and when they leave school. So we have to talk about how do we subsidize or the rest of this program as we go forward.
I would just think, because it is a good story to tell, and it does direct services to students, and you know, particularly likely that is the underprivileged that take these services that are coming from these schools. And so, as you say, it's hard to. So, are we, in a sense, working with our either congressional representatives or state representative to basically see if there's line items that we can like carve out up in Sacramento or in DC to see that, hey, here's a program that we can prove, and they can even do it as a Tiger grant, you know, grant program or something that crafts it so that it's a grant program that's their idea, but we already have the model.
Um, I don't, yep, I don't think that a grant program would help us there. We need some solid to go because this program has been, as far as Metro have said, the board when Metro have said, is that's now permanent. We need a permanent source. But we have so many other needs that we go to the let we were up in Sacramento last week. There's so many other needs that we have that this is just one of the many. And I haven't gone through, I got the report yesterday with the governor changes in the budget. And there are some impact that are in there about transit already. The details I don't know yet, but I know that we're not gonna see the kind of funding we thought we were gonna see in the next.
Yeah, but going back, a grant program is better than no program, right? So my point is when they look at the program and then they might say, hey, we'll do as a pilot. What, like you said when your statement, once you give something as a giveaway, it's hard to take it back, right? So the same voters that are basically, electing them can then say, hey, here's a great program, direct services. We did it as a grant program. We should do it as a permanent. I think going for it as a complete, like, hey, just give us the money because it's a great program.
Yeah,
Strategically, may not.
everyone we speak to and every one of the representatives, both in Sacramento and in Washington, agree it's a great program. Nobody wants to come up with it. That's the challenge. Get some funding from time to time. But there are so many other needs that are going on in transit that this is just one of the many. And we'll talk a little bit about them when I get up here in a minute. But that's the challenge we're facing is that the uncertainty at the federal level is one of the biggest issues that we're facing today. Where does the money come from? So I agree with you that we look and we continue to talk about this program because there are no other, I don't know of any other part of the country where this is happening, but this was instituted in LA County and it has been very successful. If you notice that most of the riders are on our system, and a lot of that is because we don't have a school bus system in Long Beach. So we are in effect the de facto school bus. So well we have, but yep, I agree with you. I agree with you. The reason that they stopped the school bus was to save money by the city to save. So we can continue to talk about, we are going to do this the rest of this year and come back at the end of the year. This is why we're saying it's a 1 year. We're looking for a 1 year extension to decide what do we do at the year as we get to the end of this year. And it's going to be before the end of the year that I'll come back to the board with here's what I need to be looking. Challenges we're facing. It's a great program, has a lot of financial challenge.
Okay, Director Rawlings, I know you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the presentation. That was great. I'll try not to belabor the point because I think we all have similar concerns, and I know we've got a lot to get through today. But I'll just continue some of my questions from where Ken left off. Have there been discussions about asking the participating districts to slightly increase their per student contribution for future years?
The answer is yes. When the program started, it was $3, and now it's $7 from the school. So I think, but there's a limit where you could continue to go to the schools and get that. One of the things that came out, I think, that was there was a grant that was given so the school can support this. So part of the money comes from the school and part come from that grant.
Right. Yeah,
it started at $3 and went to $7.
And they're not exactly in that much better of a financial situation than any other organization. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a difficult discussion no matter where we go, but they have to be had. So, and I also want to be very clear that I support this program. It's one of those things that can be not frustrating to advocate for because it's an obvious win and something that we should continue to figure out how to do. But on paper, it's pretty easily to quantify a $2.8 million loss, and then it's hard to quantify the positive social impact that it brings. Yet it's so obvious that we need to find a way to do that. But perhaps a slightly tougher question is, given that there is no federal, state, or private funding that's been identified yet, at what annual level of cost to our organization have we defined a threshold for something that we just can't sustainably continue to participate in? Do we know what that number is? Where the point we're going to say, unfortunately, we have to either figure out our own separate solution or have a more serious discussion?
Well, I think, yeah, if we can, I wish I could bring back up the one that looked at the service time. The demand in the rush hour is what drives it. Because in the rush hour, you're gonna need more and more buses. And with the federal government, there's a limited amount of spare ratios that you can have. So you need that many more buses, but in the off peak, you can see how far that drops down. And so that the cost is right there in front of us where we are. The cost to be able to provide that much service, and this is the one that talk about the riders, but the demand like 30 right now we're looking at about 30 buses that we bring in to support this. We haven't looked at exactly where that would break the organization, but I will take a look at that. So what is that place that we think that we have exceeded our ability to provide service? So I don't have that.
Got you. Okay. And then with that in mind, let's say through Metro, through the larger program and all other participating organizations as well, if they are continuously not able to identify and the program is at risk overall of not being able to continue, have we looked for LBT in the future at other potentially less financially burdensome ways that we can still achieve the same social good for our local students?
And the school can contribute more. That would be one. I think in the beginning they thought they can get federal funding, and then the administration changed, and the whole tune of where we go with this change. Now is to refocus. Where do we go and try to find dollars? Because there was a lot of a lot of advocacy about how great this program was, and there was federal consideration that we could get federal funds. Well, I don't know that same sentiment is with this new administration. We have to decide this year, where do we go with it? We joined it up with a 5-year focus, and we're in the last year right now.
Okay. So this is a conversation I'll be having more seriously a few months from now.
Yes.
Okay.
So before the next year is over, to decide what happens and the impact that we'll have to it. What do we have to do to address that, to deal with that impact if we're going to keep the program?
Yeah.
And I doubt we could get rid of it without pitchforks and
Yeah, I mean it's in everyone's best interest to find a way to continue it. But great, thank you so much.
Any additional board comment? Question? All right, seeing none, we're gonna go into roll call.
Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sutton, Secretary Treasurer Yorve.
Aye.
Director Almeida.
Aye.
Director Angeles.
Aye.
Director Kemp. Director Rawlings.
Aye.
Directors Sutton and Kemp have been excused.
All righty. Thank you so much. Now moving on to agenda item 8, which Ken McDonald will be presenting.
I think I'm here. Okay. This is the time once a year that you get to have Ken McDonald come up here and talk about the state, I would say the state of Long Beach and our budget. Good afternoon, Chair Mejia, members of the board, LBT executive directors, staff members, and all who assembled here today. I am Kenneth McDonald, President and CEO at Long Beach Transit. And today I will present LBT's fiscal year 2026 operating and capital budget. But before I get started, I want to state that since the budget was shared with the board, we have discovered a few copy edits that needs to be corrected before the final printing. None of the edits impact the numbers or the dollar figures stated in the budget book. I want to be clear on that, but there are some things we'll have to change. As we begin this afternoon presentation, I'd like to walk through the key topics I'll be covering. We'll start with our organizational focus, which is the strategic direction guiding our agency's priority. From there, I will discuss the CEO message and the budget theme for fiscal year 2026. Next, we'll reflect on the major accomplishment of fiscal year 2025 and highlight some milestones that laid the foundation for this year's budget. I will then turn to the fiscal year 2026 budget, beginning with the foundational principles behind the development, the challenges ahead, the look at the budget outcome and initiatives, and review of our public comment outreach, which played an important role in shaping the final budget through community feedback and stakeholder engagement. Finally, I will then round out the breakdown of both the operating and the capital budgets. As I conclude, I will share an important organizational award and honor the dedicated employees who contributed to the development of this year's budget and today's presentation. LBT's vision, mission, and values are the guiding principles that shapes the work we do, and the organizational focus translates those principles into actionable strategies and initiatives. With the budget development, these elements ensure that our investment reflects what matters most: delivering high quality service, supporting our employees, embracing innovation, and serving the community with integrity. The budget is more than numbers. It is a roadmap that aligns our resources with our strategic priorities by reinforcing our commitment to continuous improvement and long-term success of Long Beach Transit. On the slide before you are LBT's vision, mission, and values, which are outlined in more detail in the organizational focus section of the budget, the budget book, beginning on page 17. The vision outlined the agency's aspiration to the following principles: provide high-performing services to our customers, partner with local and regional stakeholders, build an environmentally friendly, sustainable organization, and strengthen trust to the diverse communities we serve. The mission is the purpose of our transit agency. Long Beach Transit is dedicated to connecting communities and moving people, making everyday life better. We could simply say LBT is about making everyday life better. LBT's values are the ideals and beliefs that guides the behavior we expect of everyone associated with the business of LBT. First, consider the customer first in decision making by being of service to others. 2, operate with integrity, especially when no one is watching. 3, be open to new ideas and continuous improvement. Seek ways to improve current processes. Be proactive. Take personal ownership, especially when things go wrong. And 5, cultivate the potential of each and every employee. We must strengthen LBT through development and training. LBT's organizational focus combined each of the components that supports our strategies and processes and serve as the foundation of the agency's annual budget development. This graphical depiction showcases the linkages between the vision, the mission, the values, and that which connects the leadership competencies with strategic priorities to guide our day-to-day decision making. Coupled with the organizational goals, this process flow displays the continuous improvement cycle where LBT uses key performance indicators to track organizational performance and redesign processes for agency improvement. In this year's CEO budget message, I discussed that Long Beach Transit, also called LBT, fiscal year 2026 budget reflects what we are as an agency: steady, responsible, and forward-looking. This budget is grounded in the reality of today but with a clear eye on tomorrow. It supports the essential work we do every day while giving us space to grow thoughtfully, sustainably, and strategically. Over the past year, we have navigated some real challenges, like many transit agencies across the country. Whether LBT was adapting to funding uncertainties, navigating rising costs, managing inflationary pressures, shifting with ridership patterns, or responding to workforce dynamics. We stayed focused on what matters most, delivering safe, reliable service to the communities we serve. In fiscal year 2025, LBT delivered. We kept our service running strong. We supported our workforce, and we moved forward on key initiatives like improving transit amenities for customers, speeding up on-time performance across sections of our service area, electrifying more of our fleet, adding electric commuter buses to our transit agency, piloting forward-facing cameras, streamlining our technology systems, and moving data storage to the cloud. All these while maintaining our fiscal sustainability and stability. These are meaningful accomplishments, and they speak to the strength and resilience of our LBT team. I send heartfelt thanks to each member for their contribution to our agency. The fiscal year 2026 budget builds on last year's momentum. It is a steady state budget, which means we are focused on maintaining our current operation and preserving the financial position we have worked so hard to achieve. At the federal level, there are major uncertainties surrounding long-term transit funding, but that hasn't stopped us from thinking creatively. In fact, it is encouraging us to be more thoughtful on how we innovate and improve. In this budget, we are holding the line on spending, not by standing still, but by continuing to be smarter with our resources. With this budget, we are not just staying the course, we are forging forward with intention. This budget reflects our commitment to progress, purpose, and strategic actions at every facet of our operation. As CEO, I remain dedicated to cultivating a resilient agency, one that not only adapts to challenges in the transit industry, but also leads with clarity and determination. The fiscal year 2026 budget embodies that mindset, balancing vision with practicality in the face of ongoing challenges. As the leader, I am clear on our top outcomes for the fiscal year ahead. In fiscal year 2026, LBT must maintain organizational financial health. We must keep reliable service safe and sustainable. We must invest in our workforce. We must deliver continued operational excellence, and we must pursue smart, scalable innovations. We must also strengthen our community trust through transparency and engagement. In fiscal year 2026, we will all, each of us at Long Beach Transit, rise to the challenge of delivering consistent, high-quality transit services while navigating financial constraints and evolving community needs. This will require deliberate decision-making, disciplined resource management, and an unwavering commitment to our mission. I will discuss these 6 outcomes I just mentioned in a little more detail later in the presentation. The first step in forging forward for this upcoming budget year was to look back on fiscal year 2025. In fiscal year 2025, where LBT was focused on optimizing organizational efficiency, the agency was able to deliver on its major initiative set forth in last year's budget. As we effectively carried out our day-to-day operation and delivered our services, we accomplished many projects. A few of those shown and discussed on this slide. We instituted 5 new battery electric commuter buses in service on the Long Beach to UCLA Westwood campus. This was the first of its kind service for LBT in its 60-year history, taking people to school, jobs, and business opportunities from Long Beach to UCLA Westwood area. We had a really good relationship with the airport to be able to deliver this service. So I want to say thank you to the airport staff and to Cynthia Goodry and the help that they gave us to implement this service. We did our contract award for ERPEAM. We executed on that contract to replace LBT outdated financial and maintenance software system to go to more modern state-of-the-art systems to conduct our day-to-day business. We conducted a comprehensive salary survey for staff. Gallagher, a private consultant, completed a comprehensive total compensation study for the non-represented classifications at LBT. The study concluded that overall, the benchmark classifications were 2.2% below market median for base salary, while the figure changed to just 1.6% below market for total compensation. A classification falling within 5% of a median, not the medium, but the median, is considered to be very competitive in the labor market. So no major changes were required in our classifications, and the finding was instituted earlier in this fiscal year. LBT also hosted a very successful after marketing communication and customer experience workshop, the largest attendance in the workshop 25-year history. This workshop brought attention to LBT and the city of Long Beach to a national audience of transit professionals. APTA is considering Long Beach as a possible regular host for this workshop in the future. We installed complimentary Wi-Fi on 25 buses. We started this pilot project. Later this year, we will complete the pilot. After evaluating the pilot, LBT and the vendor will determine a course of action for Wi-Fi on each of our buses as we seek to enhance the experiences of our customers. We installed 325 redesigned bus stop cassettes across LBT's service area. The new cassettes were more user-friendly, simpler for customers to read and understand, and have clearer color-coded route maps. We have gathered customer feedback and are now ready to plan the next step in fiscal year 2026 to expand to all 2,000 bus stops. We completed an RFP, or request for proposal, to hire an A&E firm to implement a design-build contract for the infrastructure needed to charge 125 buses and bring our Anaheim facility to 100% battery electric service when this contract is completed. We piloted a forward-facing camera program to identify unauthorized vehicles that were illegally parking in LBT's bus stops. The 2-month pilot captured over 800 violations with multiple repeat offenders. The next step is to implement a permanent program and work with the city on how we deal with offenders. An accomplishment not listed on this slide is the reactivation of our intern program. In 2025, LBT budget for 29 interns, and this is our agency investment in the next generation of transit professional. Currently, we have filled 12 of those positions. In the fall of 2024, ETC Institute, a national surveying organization, conducted customer, community, and safety surveys on behalf of LBT. The purpose of the surveys was to obtain opinions regarding aspects of the transit agency and its service delivery. Here are some highlights of what our customers told us. 87% of our, in the safety survey first, 91% of the respondents said that they felt safe when using Long Beach Transit service. In the 87% of our customers were satisfied or very satisfied with the service LBT is providing. That number is 28% higher than the national average when compared to our peer agencies. 88% of customers said our routes were convenient, while 86% said that LBT bus operators operate their vehicles safely. When asked about our fares, 86% said feel that our fares are reasonable. Of specific notice is that LBT was compared to 15 national benchmarks, and our agency exceeded the national average in every single benchmark category. We were at the top in the nation. This is the first year that LBT participated in the national benchmarking of peer agency, and I am extremely proud of what our team has done for us to be at that level across the organization. We will make sure everyone knows that. In this survey, LBT also evaluated the Net Promoter Score. A Net Promoter Score is a customer loyalty and satisfaction index that measures how likely customers are to recommend a company, a product, or a service to others. It is based on a single question. Using a 10-point scale where 10 means very likely and 0 means not likely at all, how likely would you be to recommend LBT's bus service to a friend, colleague, or family member? Respondents who answered a 9 or 10 are categorized as promoters. Those who answered 7 or 8 are called passives, and those who answer a number 6 or less are known as distractors. The Net Promoter Score is the number of promoters minus the number of distractors. As you can see, LBT had 64% promoters and 14% distractors. This, using the formula I just mentioned, our Net Promoter Score is 50. That is extremely high. On the slide that is displayed, the national average for Net Promoter Score is minus 21. We are 71% or 71 points above the national average. This is a tremendous accomplishment of which I am very proud, because we have worked very hard to get here, each and every one of us at Long Beach Transit. I want to just state that the national benchmark is, as evaluated by ETC Institute, is across 50 states and over 80 transit agencies over the last 5 years. And you can see where we came out in that. So what are our community saying about us? As I stated, we did a community survey, and the survey is conducted to collect this opinion of the community. And those are the respondents are very infrequent or don't ride Long Beach Transit at all. As you can see here, 92% of the community members are aware of Long Beach Transit. That is extremely high brand recognition. 86% of respondents agree that LBT is a valuable part of the community, and 81% thinks LBT funding should be increased. And I agree with them. There is a strong belief that 84% of the community that LBT is reducing the carbon footprint, and 81% thinks LBT is part of reducing traffic congestion. Our community members express that Long Beach Transit is valuable to the fabric of the communities we serve. As I stated previously, the principal focus of this year's budget is forging forward with intention. Being intentional in these challenging times is imperative as we execute the budget that will be presented today. The budget builds on the solid foundation of years past. It supports process improvement, lean innovation, and pilot projects that allow us to test new ideas without expanding our footprint or compromising service. An overview of the budget begins on page 33 of the budget book. I will now focus on the five foundational pillars that support the fiscal year 2026 budget. This outline is shown in more detail on page 46 of the budget book. The following 2026 budget is built upon: one, no fare increases. LBT will not implement any fare increase in 2026. In these trying times, we will maintain our current fare structure as we work to a more balanced budget. Now is not the time to put an increased burden on our customers. We will deliver planned services. LBT is committed to operating 100% of its planned service levels to meet customer needs and resource allocation. We will work diligently to fill all our vacant positions to meet this goal. We mitigate rising costs, and LBT continue to face inflationary pressures on the cost of goods and services, and we are committed this fiscal year to meet our expenses through this balanced budget. We will ensure long-term fiscal viability, and we will emphasize new stewardship to address ongoing economic challenges while maintaining the financial health necessary to support the agency over the long term through advocacy. And we will acquire no debt. LBT has maintained a long-standing practice of not running our agency by acquiring debt. And we will meet this obligation without taking on debt this fiscal year. That commitment is slowly becoming more and more difficult. At Long Beach Transit, we believe that establishing a solid budget foundation is essential to long-term stability and organizational success. There are many challenges facing LBT in 2026. Identifying and addressing these challenges is urgent and important to our transit agency. First, the U.S. economy is showing signs of slowing and emerging challenges, making forecasting its future uncertain. While inflation remains elevated, it is expected to gradually move beyond the Federal Reserve 2% target. According to the UCLA Anderson forecast, gross national product, a comprehensive score of the national economic health, continues to show slow growth. Nevertheless, uncertainties surrounding tariff policies could prompt businesses to raise prices preemptively and potentially driving inflation higher in the coming months. Economists across the U.S. consistently highlight concerns about the federal policy and its potential impact on overall economy. Three economic factors have significant impact to LBT: inflation, tariff policy, and consumer uncertainty. If inflation continues to exceed the Federal Reserve 2% target and continue to rise, it will negatively affect LBT's budget in the long run. This trend is mirrored in LA County, where inflation has fluctuated close to 3% in recent months. The second key factor influencing the agency is the ongoing tariff policy. The current administration has implemented tariffs on major international trading partners, with plans to extend these tariffs to other nations globally. These tariffs will have consequences on LBT spending and funding as they are implemented. The third and broader economic impact when customer uncertainty shifts their spending habits and can reduce economic activities in the marketplace. Approximately 69% of total GDP is consumer spending. So as goes consumer spending, so goes the national economy. If state and local revenue decreases, there will be a corresponding reduction in our agency's long-term revenue. Reduced economic activities mean less disposable income and fewer dollars circulating within the region, thereby having a reduction on federal and state funding to LBT and all transit agencies. We continue to monitor each of these factors and its impact on LBT in the future years. In fiscal year 2026, the first major organizational challenge is healthcare costs. These costs are projected to rise an average of 20.9% in the next year. As you can see, 24, 25, and 26 outlined in front of you. In the last 5 years, this cost has increased more than 38%. A graph depicting healthcare costs over the past 5 years can be found on page 57 of the budget book. To manage these escalating costs, LBT collaborates closely with its insurance carrier to implement cost control programs aimed at mitigating future increases. We are analyzing data with the insurance companies to identify actions that can be taken before accidents or injuries occur. Workers' compensation costs in fiscal year 2026 is expected to rise due to increase in labor, medical, and settlement expenses. This cost continue to rise year over year as more and more unfunded mandates are placed on businesses like our transit agency. In the last 5 years, this cost has increased more than 56%. A graph depicting workers' compensation costs over the last 5 years can be found on page 58 of the budget book. To manage these costs, LBT continues to implement proactive measures, including return to work program aimed at minimizing claims and controlling overall expenses. Another challenge in fiscal year 2026 is that Long Beach is projecting an increase in corporate liability. In the last 5 years, this cost has increased more than 69%. A graph depicting the liability costs over the past 5 years can be found on page 59 of the budget book. This upward trend in liability is influenced by several factors, including higher costs for vehicle and infrastructure repair, increased legal costs, and rising settlement costs. The volume of incidents are relatively stagnant, but cost of litigation is rising exponentially. In response, LBT continues to strengthen its risk mitigation strategy, enhance operator training, and investing in safety technology to reduce incidents and protect the agency assets. Despite these efforts, the growing complexity and cost of claims remain a key budgetary consideration for the upcoming fiscal years. In fiscal year 2026, material and supplies expenses are projected to increase due to the rising costs driven by inflation, raw material costs, and the potential impact of tariffs on imported goods. These cost pressures are particularly notable in essential material such as fleet parts and maintenance supply. In the last 5 years, this cost have increased 54.5%. A graph depicting material costs over the past 5 years can be found on page 60 of the budget book. While LBT continues to work closely with suppliers and material costs, the agency anticipates higher expenditures in the coming year. To mitigate these increases, LBT is focused on strategic procurement practices, exploring alternative sourcing options, and optimizing inventory management. These efforts aim to contain costs while ensuring the agency's operation remain efficient and uninterrupted despite external market pressures. In conclusion, moving forward, the challenges mentioned will have adverse impact on LBT's budget in this era of uncertainty for transit funding. The theme, again, as I said this year, is forging forward with intention, and staff has focused on this theme in the development of the fiscal 2026 budget. While the FY budget, the balanced operating and capital budget before you, LBT is set to accomplish the following outcomes. Through the next set of slides, I will go through specific initiatives that LBT personnel will focus on to achieve these FY26 budget outcomes that are listed before you. Financial health initiative. We will lead targeted reviews of internal processes to identify opportunities for greater efficiency and cost saving, including reducing ways to reduce overtime and streamlining or automating selected processes. We will explore opportunities for joint procurement initiatives with regional transit agencies to leverage economy of scales and negotiate better terms. We'll strengthen effort to secure dedicated long-term funding by emphasizing economic benefits of transit through advocacy with the California Transit Association in Sacramento and with the American Public Transportation Association, APTA, on the national scene. Service improvements. We will receive and commission 30 new battery electric buses to expand the zero emissions fleet to 74 before the end of the calendar year. We will implement the design build process for the final phase of the battery electric bus charging infrastructure to support fleet expansion and ensure our operational readiness and advance LBT zero emission goal. We'll establish a dedicated mean distance between failure task force to systematically track and improve bus performance. We'll expand surveillance technology and mobile communication platforms like e-alerts to enable customers to communicate incidents that occur throughout our service area, aboard our buses and at our bus stops, thereby addressing service issues more timely than we currently do. We will transition to battery electric dial lift vans and research electrification of the water taxi fleet and infrastructure to make all of the LBT fleet zero emission and reduce environmental impact. On the workforce engagement, we'll enhance LBT's emergency preparedness and response program to ensure emergency procedures are clearly communicated and service continuity is maintained during emergency-related disruption. We will implement an employee development program for managers and supervisors to strengthen our leadership competencies and support career growth and empower employees. We'll expand our wellness program that addresses physical and mental health to increase participation in wellness initiatives and reduce employee absenteeism and workers' compensation claims. We'll mitigate liability exposure by proactively addressing organizational vulnerabilities to reduce costs and prevent incidents involving employees and customers. And we will expand investment in our high school and college summer internship program to cultivate and grow the next generation of transit professionals. Under our operational excellence, we'll promote business improvement by utilizing a design thinking to achieve customer excellence through fostering cross-agency collaboration and developing user-centered innovative solution to service delivery. So that sounds like a long statement, but we are already in the process of doing that We have training on how do we achieve customer excellence that happen every month with all managers involved. We'll continue to enhance employee engagement through employee surveys, town hall meetings, and focus group to develop feedback loops on problems that are affecting the agency. We'll conduct an employee engagement survey beginning in early June to survey and measure the pulse of the agency and take action to boost retention, satisfaction, engagement, and performance. We'll implement a comprehensive operation analysis to help identify areas of service improvement, optimize systems, and ensure efficiency and effectiveness to make better decisions about route adjustment, schedule improvement, and resource allocation. Under innovation, we will continue equipment update programs to ensure employees have dependable modern office equipment that support productivity, expandability, and technology changes. We'll advance our cloud migration and standardize IT systems to improve scalability while enabling our systems to grow with demand. We'll enhance cybersecurity, increasing uptime, and simplifying support by reducing reliance on complex on-premises physical infrastructure. And we will implement our ERP EAM software platforms to improve financial visibility, cost control, and operational accountability. Under our community engagement, we'll implement digital tools to assist customers with real-time bus tracking and detour information. We will update our customer wayfinding material at the transit gallery, bus stops, and across the service areas. We'll continue to conduct mystery rider and customer community surveys to improve LBT's customer engagement, service quality, and employee accountability. And we will partner with local community organizations while supporting specific events to build stronger relationships, broaden outreach, and enhance the agency connection with the community LBT serves. Building on the board feedback received last year, we launched an engagement campaign in March to solicit input on the FY 2026 budget. This allowed LBT to engage the community through ongoing efforts and ensure transparency and responsiveness to the budget process. The Customer Relations and Communication CRC team sent a budget priority survey to over 5,000 recipients in March of 2025. The survey was promoted on social media and LBT Community Connector newsletter. This survey ended on April 9th, 2025. 168 responses were collected in English and Spanish. The top 3 priorities expressed by customers were: 1, increased service frequency; 2, more late night service; and 3, more service on weekends. I think something we knew already and kept repeating itself. On April 28th, CRC posted a narrative video explaining LBT's budget, how it is funded, and how funds are allocated. The video also explained how the earlier survey shaped the projects proposed in the fiscal 2026 budget. This video in English and Spanish with Spanish subtitles was posted on LBT's website and promoted throughout social media and the Community Connector newsletter. The video explained how LBT would accept comments and feedback about the budget and the project priorities through May 9th of 2025. The video also informed the community that the board of directors would meet today, May 15th, to consider the budget being presented by the president and CEO. The video was viewed over 500 times. LBT received 4 comments, which is in the board package, the written comments. 2 of the comments were regarding expanding service. 1 was regarding fare reform, and 1 commented on the customer satisfaction that they had with LBT service. Before I dive into the details of the fiscal year 2026 operating and capital budget, this may be a good time or opportunity for the board to ask any clarification of what I have covered so far. The organizational focus, the budget foundation, clarification on the budget development process, accomplishment of FY 2025, challenges facing the agency, initiatives planned for FY 2026, customer and community feedback, and the customer engagement around the budget. I will be able to give any explanation. I haven't even started the budget yet. I will grab.
Okay. Who wants to go first? Okay.
Ken,
Roll.
I'll reserve all my questions until the end.
Anybody?
Ken, just one of the things that I didn't notice is, we had settled a lot of union negotiations as it relates to that. You didn't mention that as an overall accomplishment. So I just was hoping you would, sort of the settlement of negotiations is a big deal to me.
I did not, but it is. I did not put it in here. We had 2 union negotiations that we did accomplish this year. In this fiscal year, that is, 1 was for 4 years and 1 is for 3 years. So that were 2 major accomplishments that we did this year. Thank you for reminding. That's right. It was a year ago. Yeah, because 1 of them is about to come back up again. Yeah, we ended the 3rd year. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Director Omada?
Great. So I love the data review of the feedback that you guys got from writers. I think, I used to work at CSULB for a while, and the first thing we would hear all the time from students is just how much they enjoyed the writership. Always they ask for more, kind of the feedback we'd hear all the time. So great to see that. My question, I guess, is when I think of 2026, I think a lot about World Cup. I think a little bit about the amphitheater coming on. Where does that fit into kind of the initiatives piece? Maybe that's coming up in the coverage, but budget impacts, is that a revenue generator or is that a stressor? And kind of where does that fit in this whole conversation?
In 26, good. Thanks for the question. Because I didn't mention one of that, but in 2026, most of it is planning. We are in the process right now of planning for the World Cup, and then beginning the whole plan for the Olympics. But most of it at this point of us is planning and developing the costs to us of dealing with those 2. Nobody's ponying up any money of how we're gonna do that, so we'll see where that goes. But most of it, 2026 is planning.
Yeah, because there's 2. I think it's Rose Bowl and SoFi for the 2 stadiums for the World Cup.
Yeah.
Right? So I just know there may be interest in the area
For the FIFA. We are looking at just from Long Beach to SoFi. And there's not much that have come to us about the Rose Bowl. But the other ones we are in the process of with the city and with the LA 28 of beginning planning now, the next steps where we were involved. There are a lot happening in Long Beach. So we're at the front of that as we go in the next couple of fiscal year. Any other comments or?
I think
Ken, you went over it in your presentation, but I'm still, the workers' comp increase. I mean, everyone is experiencing workers' comp increases, but that was like a 40% increase on top of a big increase the year before. So can you give us a little more color on what's actually driving that? And are you expecting that rate of increase every year, or what can be done to mitigate that?
I don't expect it every year, but where we're seeing a lot of that is what I mentioned, a lot of it from the operators. And we have that's why we have the wellness programs that we're looking at. reopen the gym, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. We're looking at with our insurance what they can do to help us, but most of it is coming from people having issues while driving the bus. That's where we see most of our workers comp. There've been some changes in the way that this is all done now, so I don't. But that's where most of the increase had been. People reporting a lot of motion injury being reported. I turned this way and my back tweak or things like that.
I appreciate that, but it's $2 million addition from 6 to 8 million. So I think that's all money that's not going into actual operations. So it's definitely an area for concern and improvement.
Thanks for noticing that. That is a big issue to us. That and the cost of material are the two fastest growing things that we're seeing.
Any more board comments?
Just
Director?
curious, sorry, are these just clarifying questions or is this our full conversation?
Clarifying questions from the
I'll
current
hold mine for
PowerPoint.
later. Thank you.
I'm going to jump into the budget, so at the end we'll talk about any other questions at the end. But I just wanted, there was a lot of where we are, and I thought it'd be a good halfway point to stop and just find if there were any clarification. We'll go to questions as we go to the end. Okay. So so now I will get into the first the revenue, and then we will talk about the expenses or the organization. So the following information can be found on page 50 of the budget book. LBT operation revenue fiscal year 2026 is $139.8 million. Operating revenue for FY25 was 132.2 million. So this year there's a 5.78% increase in operating revenue. The three most important revenue sources are one, Los Angeles County. We provide about 61.4% or 44% of the budget. And this comes from local tax initiative property, Measure R, Measure M. That's where that money mostly comes from. State assistance, 38.5 is or 27.5% of the budget. And this comes from the TDA Act of 1971. If you look at the governors, there's a lot of talk about what they would be looking at there. And then the third is our fair revenue, which is about 10.2 million or 7.3% into the next fiscal year. That's where the vast amount of money comes from. The fair revenue, I want to talk a little bit about that. It's been pretty flat. This year we'll continue with the Go Pass like we talked about earlier, and that's something we have to look at because you can see that a lot of the revenue that we used to get there is no longer there. So how do we backfill what it is we're losing? We need a more sustainable source to maintain that program, and we have to continue to work at making that happen. So this next chart is just a pie chart of the same information that was up front. It's where the I lay it out either as a first we had it in a what am I looking for that I lost there? But in here, we have the same dollar amount that is shown in front here that on this pie chart. So that's our revenue, and it's $139.8 million. Now we look at our expenditure. So looking at our overall expenditure, you can see that we are a labor-intensive organization. We are people in the people business, both internally and externally. In 2026, of the 139.8 million, 97.5 million or 70% of that has to do with wages and benefits. The next 30% is what we use to operate the day-to-day of the organization. So that 5.78%, the major increases are in fringe benefit, and wages, and then material expenses. So in Long Beach Transit, we put our budget into business categories. Where are we in terms of what we do to deliver the service? So we divide it into 6 categories, and the categories are outlined here. And then if you look in the budget book at page 61, you can see the description of all of these. But I will go through each of these of how we came up, how the dollars that are allocated to each one of the business categories. The first one is our transit service delivery, daily operations, security, planning, dialer lift, the training for all our operators and employees in that area, and aqua services. So about 71% of our budget is in transit. 71 million of the 139 is in transit service delivery. That turns out to be about 50.8% of the total budget is spent in this core business category. The next is our transit asset management, and that is on page 63 of the budget. This category include maintenance and infrastructure, fuel and lubricants, procurement and warehouse, and training for folks in this area. We spend about $39.4 million in this area. About 28% of the budget is spent on our transit asset management. So you can see that between our service delivery and transit asset, we're close to about 100 million of the budget is spent in those 2 areas. The customer experience chart is found on page 64, and LBT customer experience begin long before you board the bus. When you call and call into the call center or you access our website, those are all things that are related to our customer experience. Customers see LBT as a high performing agency, and we have to look at ways how we constantly communicate and connect with them. About 3.5 million is spent in this area, and we focus on letting our customers know that we are listening to them. This is about 4% of our budget is spent here because we also include customer amenities in our customer experience area. So about 5.1 million, or about 4%. The next area, I spoke about this earlier, is the corporate risk management. This is the area we see growing. That yes, it's not a good. A lot of things you look in organization and look for growth. This is where growth is not one of the things that you want to see here. We are same thing about 4.65% or $6.5 million is spent. We spend about close to 2.5 million a year on insurance premiums to protect our assets. And you can understand we have a lot of assets, so we have to pay insurances to do that. But this corporate risk area is one of our growing. It involves insurance, workers' compensation, liability claim, and risk mitigation. The next area is our information technology. And this category includes the network of critical information and data management systems that enables LBT to effectively perform day-to-day function. About $6.3 million or 4.5% also is spent. So we spend about the same amount of money on IT that we spend on risk management. And that is also growing. This is a good growth because it helps us to look at ways that we can improve efficiency in the organization. We are looking a lot at standardizing a lot of our tools in the organization. And a most important part of this is cybersecurity tools to make sure that we keep our systems secure. The final area is internal business functions. And you can see in that area, Of the 139, we spent 11.5 or 8.2%. I've been told over in my years in school and since I've left there, any business that spends less than 10% of its money on administrative function is pretty efficient organization. We spend 8.2%. So you can see that most of our money goes to maintaining our asset, delivering our daily services, improving our customer experience, looking at our customer amenities, technology, and managing risk. So we do a pretty good job at the dollars that come into this organization going into providing the services that we are expected to provide in the organization. This is the balanced budget that I'm presenting today that I asked the board to approve. As you can see, the revenue, operating revenue on the left of this chart, and on the right, the operating expenditure. I will now go on to the capital budget, which would take a similar approach. Our capital programs, we implement a strategy that is about using capital to control or reduce operating expenses. And this chart is how we do that. We look at our capital expenses. We have an essential, priority, or value added evaluation to decide on a project and how are those projects helping us in improving safety and security, enhancing customer amenities, rehabilitating and maintaining our assets, modifying and expanding our facilities, replacing and expanding our fleet, and upgrading and introducing technology systems. We look at those to help us to find how that control our operating expenses. In using the ranking system that we use, essential mean that it must be deliver high quality services and infrastructure. We fund those first. If it is essential, it must be something that could affect the organization, and in our capital, we fund the essential elements first. Priority is the critical to support our core business, and those are the next in line. And then we look at added value, and if it add value, out of funds is not done that year, it's put and could become one of the critical elements in the future year, but it is delayed if funding is not available. So here is how we get our capital funding. 28.8 million of the 45.1 million, or 50.6%, comes from the federal government. That's a really concern when you look at capital. That's more than half of what we spend on our capital comes from the federal government in these uncertain times. 13.5% come from the state, and then 6.1 million come from local sources. And that mostly has to do with the measures that we have. Another 2.5 million in this budget come from efficiency on projects that we had last year that we're rolling into this year. So if we had a project that was more efficient than we had planned, that money rolls over into the reallocated funding in the next year. And here we can go to the next chart. Here's where the money is distributed in this fiscal year in terms of our spending, our expenses in relative to the revenue. There are major clustered or major categories: rehabilitating and maintaining asset. We have 17.7 million, or 39% of the total in there. Replacing and expanding our fleet, about 15.2 million. And what we do every year is put money into an account so that we can build that account up to buy buses. So we don't, 15.1 million might sound small, but we put that into each year. As I said, we don't go into debt. So we take the money and add it. So when we're ready to purchase the buses, we have the funding to be able to do that. Upgrading technology, about 5.4 million, or 12% of this. Modifying and expanding our facilities. This year, we're going to put 4.9 million. Enhancing customer amenities, 1.1 million. And safety and security, just about $1 million. So that's where the money goes from the revenue in the capital program. We have some of the projects that we are going through right now is the bus replacement and rehabilitation program, like I said here, the $43.8 million, and the next, as we look at the next 30 buses, and we are rehabilitating our 60-foot buses in this upcoming year. Another one, our customer amenities, where we're looking at on Cherry Avenue, Long Beach Boulevard and Atlantic Avenue, where we are going to upgrade some of our customer amenities. What we mean that at bus stops or bus shelters or any of the things that are customer facing. We also are looking at proposals for upgrading the transit gallery. We've been working on this for a while, so this year we are right at the point right now of getting a vendor and then looking at upgrading the lighting, the wayfinding, the displays, and being able to be more customer focused in the transit gallery. So that's something that's going to start this fiscal year. And then the last one that we have is the major capital is the ERP/EAM, that we begin to replace our aging computer system to more modern system. This year, we're going to deploy in HR and payroll is the first place. If we can pay people successfully, I think we can do everything after that. So that's where we're heading right now. The first phase is to look at the HR systems and payroll in this fiscal year. This project is going to take us about 2 years. That's our intent. We have to do this within the next 2 years because the system we have right now is no longer supported. So we don't have a choice when it comes to this one to get it right. Where do you heard that? We have a choice to get this done because the system is so old. We don't have support for it anymore. So we have 24 months to get this done, and the vendor no longer would support the current system that we have.
Can I just ask, as it relates to the capital improvement projects, in terms of the monies that are allocated, I know that we have that one-time, build back monies, and that's probably going to run out in 26. Is that what we're using for some of these capital improvement programs?
No, the money that's going to run out in 26 was what we got from the federal government during the pandemic. That was separate from capital. They gave us operating funds, so the capital funds are not going to be the same here.
Okay, so we're going to try to figure out how to fill that back somehow, some way, in terms of the pandemic money?
That's where when we talk about the fiscal cliff, 27, 28 going forward.
Yeah.
That's the one that on the operating.
So it's not necessarily in this. I mean, because I saw it on the graph saying there was one-time money, but that's going to go away, right?
Yeah, this year we don't have a problem with that. Next year, I can tell you when I come up here next year, it would be something different. We'd know it long before next year, but we are in 2026. We're not expecting that we would have to do any cuts or anything like that to balance the budget. The money that was given to us, we spread it over 3 years, and this is the last year of the one-time funding.
But some of the federal monies, are we using some of this in these capital projects? Because I heard you say one time we're trying to get these done before
the Fed every year. This is normally most of our funding for capital come from the federal government. The challenge we have is that the federal government don't give you money for operating. You get grants and you can apply for federal capital funding. Those are a lot more available, or I wouldn't say a lot more available. They are more consistent than for federal for capital operation than for capital spending than for operating day to day. What happened when we had the pandemic? They gave us money to help because if you remember during the pandemic, we weren't collecting fares. There was zero coming in from the fare box. People just were allowed to ride the transit system. So that's where the money went to support us back then. Because we had zero fare box And that was not just us, that was across the country. Everyone abandoned, you ride and then they gave us the funding, the funding that came from the federal government. Is that clear, the question? Okay. So this here is the balanced capital budget for fiscal year 2026. And that's what I am asking the board. And so as I come to a close, I want to express my appreciation to the extensive effort put forward by the executive leadership team during this budget, for the management staff, all the managers who were involved, and as these programs, so that we can come up with these balanced budget. Before I acknowledge the rest of the staff who was involved, I want to look at this. Each year, LBT Board of Directors adopt this budget, and fiscal year 25 budget was awarded the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA as it's called, Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. So as much as I stand up here and we talk about all the challenges, we put a very good budget book together and it's highly recognized. This is the 8th consecutive year we have won this award because of the good work we did in the budget, and the budget document must meet the GFOA standards for a couple of things. As a policy document, they look at it as a financial plan, an operation guide, and a tool, a communication tool across the organization. We meet all of those, and we have been able to get this award 8 years in a row. So I'm proud to recognize the staff who have been involved in putting the budget together and helping us to get this award each time. And I also want to thank them for the patience that they have with me, because this doesn't take, it takes a lot of going through with me to get this budget done. So I want to give some special thanks to some faces that you see up here. I want to, Lisa Patton, who leads the budget department, Ashley Liang, our treasurer, Terry Kuhn, two of them who were up here, the manager of finance, Jennifer Maxwell, the manager of capital programs, Michael Herman, the manager of accounting, Mickey Decker, who is the manager of maintenance planning over at the maintenance department, a very important job in the upcoming year, Steve Jurgensen, the maintenance analyst, Irma Pamplona, who is a maintenance analyst, Sammy Patel, another analyst in the organization, Sonia Devilla, a grants program analyst, and Carly Wade. Carly is one of our up and coming bright star. I want to say that she is very, very engaged in, for a new person in the organization. Yeah, she is very, very enthused about analyzing the things that we're talking about here today. And Kevin Schrader is also another analyst who works together in doing this. Melissa Cayley, who's a senior accountant, and Laura Roscoe, the finance admin, she's the person who coordinates all of this, who makes it all happen. She probably is the one who learned how to herd cats. I think she has that capability now. She can herd all of us together to get this done. I want to also look at Mike Gold and his group, who has done a lot this year in the budget in terms of outreach. Aranza Chavaria, who has also been a big part with Mike making this happen, and Emily Rasmussen. I thought Emily had a different name. Taylor? Right. I think she's now Emily Taylor. She got married just lately. Jennifer or Jen Flores, who has done a good job. And the person who made sure that I'm standing up here, Heidi Valdez, who has made sure that the time is spent for me to get this budget put together and stand before the board. So as I conclude today, I would like to thank you for listening to me, and therefore I am requesting the board of directors to adopt LBT's fiscal year 2026 operating and capital budget. Thank you for your attention and staying with me throughout this presentation. If there are any questions or clarification, I will try to handle them now.
Great, thank you, Ken. I do want to get a motion for the budget first. So do I hear a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any public comments? Seeing none, we'll go to board discussions. I know some of you had clarifying questions, so Director Rawlings, I'll go with you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ken. And I too, sorry, I've got my notes here. It's been a long day, so I want to make sure I get through it all. I also want to thank the staff. I know that's already been done, but these are huge projects every single year, and I know, especially for stuff like this, nothing ever goes according to the plan, even if you have a full year to prepare. And getting this done so well every year is definitely something to make note of, because obviously it's never just a budget. It also sets a direction, priorities for the agency, and forces us to literally put our money where our mouth is. And in unpredictable times, that's tough to do. So kudos to everyone for doing that well enough to get an award 8 years in a row now. I know these meetings are, we're on a time limit, right? So we're never gonna massively adjust any of the priorities here. So I'm gonna keep my questions fairly high level, with the consideration that, like last year, we're gonna continue to talk about a lot of these things looking into the future. But a couple small things first is, the budget notes potential tariff challenges on raw materials like steel and aluminum. What are some of our mitigation strategies that we have in place, given while there's been an improvement that could very well head the other direction? Some of the uncertainty there, are we applying more of a buffer to this than we normally would in some other budgets, given kind of the chaotic situation?
The answer is yes and no. Yes, we're working with our vendors, like the purchasing of the vehicles and what we expect will happen, that they can't, because there's a tariff, you just decide that every time it goes up, you come to us and we go up. So we are talking about how we handle that. The no is that we don't have any additional dollars that we can just go out and put there. We keep a reserve, and if something goes really bad, I'll come to the board to talk about the reserve. But we don't have a general fund that we could dip into. So if something goes, I would be back before this board saying that this budget is falling apart or getting better. If it's getting better, I just report it out. But that's the approach that we would take. So yes, we work with the vendors and whoever it is with costs, but we'll have to look and see if it changes. I have to come back to the board.
Sure, makes sense. Thank you, Ken. And it's possible that I missed this, but there's been a lot of talk recently about some of our pilot programs, like the Wi-Fi program that we've been looking at. Totally possible I missed it, but I didn't see much about that in this.
So I did talk about that, what we're planning to do in the next year. A lot of it I kept putting, I didn't go into the eaches of it, but that's the one I mentioned, that we did a pilot. We had 25, and we working with the vendor right now to look at how, once the pilot is over, how do we get this on all of our buses? And the same thing with the signs at the bus stops. We did a pilot on that. The intent is to start expanding those this year. Some of them are going to take about 2 years before it's done, but we are this year going to start. I talked about it, but not in that. I didn't go to the eaches of it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look through it again, because definitely an area of interest. Thank you. And then the last one's a bigger question, and it's not a fun question to ask, but it's been fantastic that we've been able to keep fares what they are. And as we continue to look to the future, I'm not asking for an answer now about what that's going to look like, of course. And we want to do everything we can not to additionally burden our riders and our community. But what is the agency's comfort level in seriously considering responsible and well thought through increases?
So we are doing a study right now, and a whole point about fare collection and the whole fare study on our organization. That's the first step. One of the things is that a fare increase is very elastic, right? When you do that, you're gonna lose people. It is not that is standard. You go up in price, you're gonna lose some. We haven't looked at that until this study is completed. But I don't believe that you get, from my experience, the result from just increasing fares. I'm not saying that that's off the table, but it's not the first thing that you want to do. Of course. But once we get the study done, when we look at our fair study, what do we want to do next? Then that's something that may come back to the board. That only option is we increase fares.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think scary is not the right word, right? But there's obviously a lot of challenges, but it's also really cool in reading through this. It looks like there's a lot of really creative opportunities for us to expand like what revenue looks like. And while it might not be enough to offset everything, like every little bit counts, right? So looking into what some of those are for future stuff. I look forward to talking with the board and the rest of the team on what some of those projects come to fruition as soon as possible. Cool. Thank you guys.
Any additional comments from the board? Oh. Oh, you're next.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ken, and Jen, and to the staff as well. I'm glad, and I'm sure you'll be glad as well, that I waited. I reserved my time to ask you questions because 5 of them have already been answered. I only have 50 more. I'm kidding. The budget is very well structured. And has a balanced plan. I appreciate, and I'm going to reiterate some of the things you mentioned, but I just want to highlight them. One, no debt policy, which is commendable. No fare hikes, commendable. Operating expenses are matched to the revenues. Number 4, public engagement was sought in the budget development. The budget is aligned with our strategic priority. And of course, the reinstatement of the internship program and employee retention and training. The budget demonstrates a stewardship and strategic intent. However, I do have a couple of questions. Is there, you didn't mention climate preparedness or climate concerns, how it may affect the buses, the environment, the infrastructure. Can you give us a reason why, or can you share something about that?
I believe that our actions in terms of our zero emissions direction that we're going is directly related to climate, is directly related to the clean air. And we started this program of zero emission with the intent. One of the things when I joined this organization, they were saying over 20% of the kids that are in the areas we provide services had asthma. And we took on the idea of what can we do as Long Beach Transit to do something to help with this. And the part of that climate was our zero emission vehicles. We also look at our building, this building that we in here. We got a green award for this building because we built the building with that in mind. So those are the steps that we take in terms of dealing with that. There's not a lot of fanfare of how we do it, but those are the things we include in our projects. Like we are doing this phase 4 of our charging system. We're making sure that solar is part of how we can charge the batteries to be able to charge the buses in the off peak so that we don't have to use that much power to be able to charge our vehicle, and we can use solar. So those things that we include into the projects that we do is how we address our climate action plans.
Okay. Thank you. In respect to the discussion on fair recovery ratio, specifically long-term sustainability, I read the list of revenue sources, but can you elaborate or share more information or ideas on ridership projections or future fare policy scenarios. I know it's discussed. There was a public comment addressing that as well today. Especially since LBT plans for no fare increases this year, despite the growing cost.
Yeah. So this year, we have no,
Yeah.
there are two things I wrote down here, no fear hike and no debt. I think it's getting harder and harder for us to do that, especially the no debt.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see ourselves having to take on to be able to do project. Do we want to do that? The answer is no, but can we not do it in the times that we're in here right now? We may have to get there.
Are you referring to a fare increase?
No, I'm referring to just the fact of not that we could plan long term and see save for projects that we're doing. We can't wait that long for projects anymore. So we may end up having to go to debt. I see that happening for the organization. We try as much to avoid it. If there's a person that don't want to hear me use the word debt, Lisa. So we talk about this all the time. How do we deal with that? But the environment that we're in is changing. And so I expect that we may, as an organization, start taking on our full set of debt maybe in the next year or two. And then in the no fear hike, we wanted to do our fear study first before we talk about and know what do we think the impact would be if we increase fares. If we decide that we're going to go from $1.50 to $2, $1.25 to $1.50 or $2, what's the impact of that? Because I do not want to put something out and then we wonder what is going to happen. We have to have a pretty good idea what is going to happen if we did that. This year we don't have any fare hikes. I'm hoping that next year we don't. Hope is not a method, but we're working on making sure that. But after that, I have no clue where that is taking us, unless we find some way that to get a dedicated set of funding for transit. If that funding begins to disappear, I don't have any answer where that will come from at this time.
Okay, I'm just piggybacking on some of the public comment about like tier pricing or test pilot fares or routes. And I don't know if you've considered those.
One of the things I said in there is that about 8 years ago, we did our comprehensive operation analysis. We're about to do another one. Part of it, we are running service to UCLA. And that came from our last COA. It was a 10-year plan that 10 years from now, we look at running service to other, it was the first project we did. It became year number 1 because UCLA came to us and said, we're willing to be partners in getting this service. So if there are ways that we can have partnership to do this, it happens faster. Okay. So if if Disney want to partner with us, it can happen a lot faster and we will talk to them. They may say no, but we will explore the opportunity.
Right. Thank you. My last question, in the budget book, there's mention of equity and accessibility analysis. I don't believe you touched on it very much right now. I appreciate that the budget does highlight the community outreach and the programs like GoPass, but I don't believe I saw a clear framework of equity or demographic impact analysis. I think with the special events, the special routes, for example, UCLA, Museum Express, and we serve a very diverse community that is transit dependent. It would be nice to see some sort of equity assessment or impact statement of how these events, these routes impact the community.
In the sense of the community on the, I'm trying to get some, before I answer the question, clarity.
Yeah. How these programs, how these routes impact the community in terms of how many folks do we get to UCLA? How many youth do we get to their schools? How many folks that work in downtown Long Beach get to their jobs? So I didn't see a breakdown of that information. I think it's very important to highlight and to share.
80% of the people that ride our system make less than $50,000. 80%. 71% of the people that ride Long Beach Transit have no other means to get around. We know who our customers are. We do this, and I think Mike presented this a couple of weeks ago. 65% of the people that travel with us either going to work or going to school. Now, I didn't put this in the budget, but all that is in our customer survey that we did, and we just presented this a couple of weeks ago. So we know the impact that we have on the community. If we go away, there are a lot of people, 71% of the people would have no other way of getting around. So that's what I was asking, the clarity on the question. We have a pretty clear idea of where that is and how we continue to make sure that we address the people who are traveling for us. 86% of the people said the routes get them where they want to go. That's less than 14% that we have to figure out, okay, how do we help those other people? But I think we do a pretty good job of addressing the community we serve by the surveys and what they tell us. And we make sure that we have increased the survey from one, we used to do one a year, we're going to do two a year now. So we're clear on where should our service go.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate the outreach, like I mentioned earlier. I just think it would be nice to maybe, and I do recall the presentation on the survey, but it would be nice to have it somehow in the budget. Highlights. You don't have to duplicate that book right there, but it would be nice when you talk about equity and accessibility. It would be nice to highlight some of those numbers, those demographics.
Yeah,
it's just a suggestion.
Yep, I think we put some of it in there, but we didn't put those things in there. But yes, I will look at how we can consider that.
Thank you.
All right. Director Angeles?
I just want to commend you for a great budget and a team, just like as everybody else did. I also appreciated the graphics because I'm a visual person. Maybe next year we can have some cartoons. I'd like some moving cartoons kind of moving around and, kind of like YouTube. No, I'm kidding. So, but thank you. I don't really have any questions.
We wanted to keep it under an hour. You put the cartoons on, they kept.
All right.
I'll just commend the team as well. I think it's a great presentation, very informative. The only thing I would add is just maybe for future, just especially being new in the first meeting today, is just to see a comparison for some of the departments. So are we growing in the customer outreach or something like that, or are we retracting in certain areas? So just for familiarity's sake, in the presentation, but that would be it. I think excellent work.
Okay, and Christopher?
Yeah, so great job. I know how much work this is because I feel like I spend my entire year doing budgets and then it gets adopted and you start on the next one. But I really wanted to follow up on what we can expect in the year ahead in terms of service planning. You had STAR initiative and then COVID hit, so it never got fully implemented. And then last year during the retreat and during budget, we talked a lot about making hard choices and revisiting service planning. So I don't know where that is. And
yeah,
yeah,
I mentioned that we are right now. We just started our last week. I met with them. We just kicked off our comprehensive operation analysis. That's exactly what that is meant to do for us. To look at the service and where we can do improvement. Look at where we can expand. What are the challenges facing Long Beach Transit from a service perspective? So we just started that last week. It is 18 months. I'm going to make it is going to take 18 months to 2 years, but 18 months before they start bringing it. What they asked for us yesterday when we met last week, before they can start giving us input on what they're finding. So just to manage that expectation, it will take about close to 2 years for us to get there, get the finished product. But they're going to begin to give us information as they go through.
so I get that it's going to take 2 years, but if we're hitting a fiscal cliff in 3 years, I think we're going to have to make intermediate steps during that time. And something that I brought up before that I think is very important. It's a separate agency, but it's owned by the city on behalf of the residents of Long Beach, and there's service being operated in Carson and Dominguez Hills that's very infrequent and very low ridership. and is an expense to the agency. And isn't necessarily, it's beautiful that we can serve other areas, but it's not necessarily serving the residents of Long Beach. And that's concerning to me. So I'd like a way to address that in a time frame shorter than 2 years.
I would like to state that that's the only service that pays us to run. Every other service we operate based on the dollar. Carson is the only place that pays us to run the service. So that's an important fact of how we ended up there because they wanted, and that's what we're looking, anybody that we get involved with, that pay us to run the service, not to take service from here to go somewhere else.
Great. And that's great. I think but that kind of information needs to be shared and isn't necessarily, the board's not necessarily privy to that. So Abby, as the chair, I just want to make sure the things we addressed a year ago in the retreat, and we talked about passport and water taxi, and that we're actually making progress on those.
Yes, that was going to be one of my things to bring up was actually the passport. I don't think I saw it addressed here, but I think in past conversations we did have conversations about, although we like the passport, we need that data that shows, is it working, right? Is there something that we can do creatively with the passport? It's needed, but showing that data regarding the passport. And also with the Olympics coming in, right? We had that discussion before about the Metro trying to have a water taxi from Pedro. We should be a part of those conversations. That's the, it's gonna generate a lot of revenue. So I know we've had discussions in the past regarding that.
So I don't know that the passport generates or would ever generate a lot of revenue. It is not the kind of it was never intended to be that when it was put together as a major revenue generator, but it's a very important element to the fabric of the community here when it started, and I still believe that that is. So we can bring the numbers on what's happening. It's where we are with it and the cost of running. The reason that we don't run year round anymore is because it was not feasible and wasn't paying more than 50% of its cost. So I can bring back, if we want to discuss it, I can bring the statistics and what's happening with it, with the service that we provide there. In terms of what just came out about the from Long Beach to San Pedro, we were contacted and when it was being thought of, and we are, if you look at what the resolution said, is that Metro and us get together and they come back to them, but there are a whole lot of people that are involved in this also. But the directive was that we have been operating this service for quite a while. How did Metro work with and Long Beach Transit of the possibility they give them 90 days to come back with a plan to the Metro board? My most important thing is if we're going to do this, that there's a funding source. That we don't just come up with one of these again that doesn't have a funding source. That is not always the case that comes out of the Metro board. You don't always get funding source. We just have one, which is the Go Pass. So I don't know what to expect from it. But yes, it has been guided that they talk with us as that move forward.
Sorry, Chris, do you have anything else?
No, it's just that kind of follow through. So the passport, it's not, no one here is asking to get rid of the passport or double the passport, but we talked about doubling the fare on the passport from a quarter to 50 cents. And I mean, that could help considerably. We talked about doing outreach to the businesses and hotel owners about making sure the route still worked because it was designed before COVID and it's a different travel environment after COVID. So I don't want to go through every detail here. here, but I do think that there was direction given throughout the year over the last year that there needs to be follow-up on.
You're correct. So we'll come up with what we can do is look at what needs to be followed through, and we'll discuss
Right.
which items need to come back to the board.
I would look back and I don't recall all of this, but I would look back with Jen, we'd look over all the details of it. I don't remember what come back with fear, but I could be wrong. So I will look into it and then we'll get back. I know Jen has every note in the world there, so we will talk and come back with it.
Anything else? All right, I do have one more question. I know that there's going to be improvements on bus stops, and I know we've had this discussion before about some of our bus stops not even having shelters. And I mean, it always, when I walk around near a bus stop and I see a lot of people and there's nowhere to sit, no shelter, is that going to be included on this assessment?
Which assessment?
On the capital
For
program?
bus?
Yeah,
So-
for bus stops.
So the capital program for bus stop I mentioned the corridors that we're working on right now. We have 3 corridors, which is Cherry, Atlantic, and Long Beach Boulevard. We put them in phases, so those are the ones we have in the capital program right now. I can get back with what exactly we're doing there, but those are the 3 that are in the program.
Great, thank you. Any more questions? All right. We are now call for a roll call vote.
Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sun, Secretary Treasurer Yorve,
Aye.
Director Almeida,
Aye.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings,
Aye.
Director Sun, and Kemp have been excused.
All right, thank you so much, Jen. The motion carries. Recommendation to adopt the fiscal year 2026 year budget of $139,833,222 and the fiscal year 2026 capital budget for $45,185,577 is approved. And then we'll move on. Thank you so much, everybody, for your hard work on the budget. All right. Moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment? All right. Board request. Any board requests? All right. Seeing none, moving on. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Right, all this, call for a vote.
Chair Mejia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Sun, Secretary Treasurer Yorve,
Aye.
Director Almeida,
Aye.
Director Angeles,
Aye.
Director Kemp, Director Rawlings,
Aye.
Director Sutton, and Kemp have been excused.
Great, thank you. The motion carries. The meeting is now adjourned. The next regular meeting will be held on June 26th, 2025. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.